Well, look what came in the mail, or I should say came by FedEx. This is from Evolution Power Tools. And Evolution Power Tools contacted me the other day and said, can we send you something to try out in the shop? I said, sure, why not? Who doesn't like some good new tools? So we're going to open this box up and see what they sent me. Now, Evolution Power Tools is not paying me to review this tool. They just sent the tool to try out and to do a review on. Good, bad, or otherwise, the opinions expressed on the tool will be my own and they aren't paid for. But I do get to keep the saw. So here we are, we got a packing list here, and we have an owner's manual with addresses for customer service in Australia, France, US, and UK. So they're apparently a worldwide company. And what they've sent here is a chop saw, but it's not an abrasive chop saw. It's something I've never tried before. I have to figure out where all the pieces parts go. Blade flanges are pretty obvious. Lots of styrofoam. And right down to the saw that looks like it's mostly assembled. That's nice. Pretty nice looking saw here. Blades are already installed, which makes me wonder what the blade flanges are for. Maybe they're just spares. Nice long cord on it, which is handy. Seems like there's never a plug where you need one. It says 10-foot cord. Doesn't look like I need much with a knife here. So here is the saw. I'm going to have to look in the owner's manual and figure out where some of this stuff goes. It's got a quick release slide on the vise. So the fence is very quick and easy to adjust here for different angles. Go up to 45, and it looks like it'll extend here, so you must be able to adjust the fence in this direction or something because there's different index holes there. But again, we'll have to look at the owner's manual to see how all that works. Really a nice guard on this thing that completely covers the blade and retracts automatically. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, it's got blade flanges on it. I don't know what those extra flanges do, but like I say, we'll see if we can find out in the owner's manual. They may just be spares. Nice ergonomic handle here. Well, like most of these quick releases, I can see that it loosens, but then it stays put. So you almost have to use the quick release up to a point. And that's maybe by design. It'd be nice if you could just unscrew that for a few turns, and maybe you can if you hold this down. But it's clearly not designed for that because of the way it pops up. So that's a feature, not a bug. So pardon me while I take a quick look at the manual and see if I can figure out what these parts are. Okay, well this piece is simply a chip catcher, it looks like, and it looks like it slides in the back of the saw right here. It has a little knob so it locks in so it doesn't slide out. That's a little nice feature. It's something I've never seen a saw with a catcher like that before. Of course, the one I've got's pretty old. And then this thing slides over the vise here. That means if you're trying to cut something on an angle, stand a square bar up on the diamond or have a round bar or something, that's going to help hold that a little bit more secure. Very nice little add-on. Now the folks at Evolution Power Tools also sent some materials, and there was no note with this to explain why they sent the materials. Either this is an example of what this saw will cut that they sent me just so I can look at the quality of the cuts, or they wanted to make sure I had something that I could present to you and cut. So I'm going to cut this stuff again. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, this is not an abrasive cutoff saw. This does not have an abrasive blade that you're going to wear out and have to change a bunch. This instead has a carbide toothed blade, which seems like cutting steel with carbide teeth sounds awfully hard on me. I've never tried a saw like this. It's going to be really interesting to see how it works. But this blade ought to outlast abrasive blades, and it's not going to put the abrasive dust in the shop that an abrasive blade does. Should be cleaner. It is supposed to stay cold so you don't have hot material after you're done cutting, and it's supposed to cut without leaving a big burr like an abrasive saw usually does. Those are the claims. Let's see how it does. Don't have anything in mind with any of this material, so we're just going to cut it off. I have no idea how loud this is, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is plenty loud, and I don't really want to listen to it, so I'm going to wear hearing protection like I would with any other power saw like this, and I'm going to wear a dust mask because there's still going to be metal dust that's going to come off of this. That is completely cold to the touch. There is a little tiny burr, but nothing at all like you'd expect with an abrasive saw. Super clean cut, lots of little chips. This makes chips that look like they might have come out of a drill press or a lathe, so that chip catcher down there is really going to be a handy thing. And I'd put it someplace in your shop where you don't mind a bunch of chips, but wow, I'm impressed with how fast that was. Let's cut some of this other stuff just to see how well it does. I'm particularly interested in this piece of heavy flat bar here. This is what, quarter by 5 inch. This is pretty big stuff here, so I'll be real interested to see how that works. Oh, people ask me about this dust mask. It's from RZmask, and there's a link in the description for this. Unfortunately, this isn't rated for abrasive grinding dust like standing at the belt sander, so I just wear it more for nuisance dust and other things. In fact, I wear it when I'm out mowing the lawn because I have hay fever, and it really does help with that. But this isn't an endorsement for RZmask either, just answering your question because I know one of you are going to ask. Now I frequently edge cut flat bar like that because it goes so much faster on the other saw. I'm trying to flat cut it like this, but clearly that doesn't fit. This little catch on the guard bumps into it before it moves. Now it's possible you can move this entire thing forward and that might alleviate that or might make it worse. I'd have to experiment with that a little bit to find out. But let's try it flat. This is something that usually takes forever in an abrasive saw. It tends to overheat them and trip the reset or even throw a breaker. So it is not something I would typically do under my regular chop saw. And this thing could care less. Holy cow, I have never imagined a chop saw that would cut that fast. And I never really thought a carbide tooth saw would. I know I've heard of them, but I've always been a little skeptical. It's always seemed too good to be true, but wow, it does it. And it does it handily. And they've sent me some nice material here. I should have cut this square. I guess I'll have to cut another piece. This is going to make a nice little bending jig at the anvil. I don't have one this size, so that's what we're going to do with that piece of material. And that'll make a nice base plate for it. So thanks for the materials and for the saw. Now something I don't think I mentioned or noticed initially is this has a little safety right up here on the handle. So you can't just squeeze the trigger this way. You first have to do that. And that makes this thing a little bit safer saw right along with the improved guard system. Now there may be other saws out there that have these improvements. I haven't bought a chop saw in years. The one I've got is probably 15 years old by now, so there may be improvements in those models by now. But of course they might also be made cheaper. I think this is one that is not simply your average homeowner's or weekend welder's chop saw. This is a serious professional tool and it looks very well made. It's an aluminum base. The black makes it look kind of like it might be plastic, but it is not. It is good and solid. It's got well-fitting machine parts. I'm really impressed with how fast it cuts. No idea how long this blade is going to last, but I think it's going to be really cost-effective, and it's going to save me buying abrasive blades for most of the things I do with a chop saw. Well, let's fast forward a couple of days. I've had the saw for a while. I've tried it out, done a few things with it, and I've had a chance to talk with a representative from Evolution Power Tools about how long the blades should last and what the real maximum capacity of it is. And what he told me was that in material like this that they sent, the square tubing, relatively thin wall stuff, they expect it to last about 50 to 1 compared to your typical abrasive blade. Now, these blades, I spend $10, $12 for one of these blades. The blade for the Evolution saw is about $130, $140 by the time you pay shipping. So if the Evolution saw blades actually outlast these abrasive blades by 50 to 1, I am probably saving enough money in the life of one of their saw blades to actually afford to buy the saw. And that seems really like a pretty good deal. Somewhere else I saw an estimate of 20 to 1, and I'm not sure how they were comparing that. Now, of course, that depends on what you're cutting. If you're cutting tougher stuff, if you're cutting even annealed tool steel, it's probably going to wear the blade faster. If you're cutting stainless, if you're cutting galvanized material, you're going to wear the blade out faster. And if you're cutting heavier solid material, you're going to wear the blade out faster. The rep said he has personally used the saw on material up to 50 millimeters square, which is about 2 inches square, and that's pretty heavy stuff. He just says that the blade will not last as long doing that. But even if it lasts 10 times as long, you're kind of in the same price range as you are with these, and if it cuts a lot faster, that might be a good economical decision right there, because time is money if you're doing this for a living. In addition to that, somewhere I found online, and I don't remember whose video it was now, but somebody else doing a review of one of these, he was cutting 90 millimeter round bar. So that's over 3-inch diameter round bar. That's a big hunk of steel. It took a little while, but it did cut it. Now for me, one of the bigger things that I cut routinely in the shop is 1 inch by 1.5 inches. I use that for a lot of my axes and my adzes that I make as regular items for sale in my shop. So why don't we take a look at a piece of 1 by 1.5 inch mild steel with the saw and just see how fast it cuts. So even if my ultimate cost for one of those blades equals the exact same cost for using this style blade, that is so much faster, cleaner, it's cool. I can take this immediately and do whatever I need to do with it next. I don't have to wait for it to cool down. That to me is a big plus. Now typically I do these on the Marvel bandsaw, and that's something I can clamp this down, I can set it to cut, I can go off and do something else for a few minutes, come back, turn it off, move the bar, cut the next piece, and do that over and over again throughout a morning. But I'm not sure if that's really as much time saving, just being able to go do something else for a few minutes, as what this does, because it cuts so much faster than the Marvel saw. The Marvel saw is really quite slow, but that blade I've been using for about 1.5 years and it shows no sign of wearing out, so I'm not sure. Blade economics isn't the way to compare that. It's really speed and efficiency. So it's just what you need in your shop. It's what other tools you have in your shop. But anyways, I just thought I would mention those things and show you cutting a much bigger piece of material. And now back to the video wherever we were when I interrupted. Now in the past, I haven't used a chop saw as much as a lot of people would. I have a shear I use for a lot of the smaller flat stock because the chop saw dust just gets everywhere. It's nasty. Chop saw blades break easily. They're kind of dangerous. This one's going to be safer. It's going to be more efficient, going to be more pleasant to use. So I'm going to set it up out there where my current chop saw is, although I won't get rid of the current one because this does have one downside. And that is this blade will not cut hardened steel. With an abrasive chop saw, if you need to, you can put a leaf spring in there that you want to cut up into pieces for axes or something like that, and you can cut the hardened leaf spring. You can cut a hardened car axle. If you've got the patience and your saw is big enough, you can cut a piece of railroad rail with it, although that's a pretty big hunk of steel to cut, but it will do it. I would not put any of those things in this saw because it is not meant for cutting hardened steel. Annealed tool steel, you can probably get away with. So what this says in the owner's manual is, when fitted with an appropriate blade, this machine can be used to cut mild steel, thin steel, stainless steel, aluminum, wood, and masonry. Cutting galvanized steel may reduce blade life. But the fact that they specify mild steel and don't include tool steels, spring steels, alloy steels, things like that, I think I would never even try to cut that with this. I think that's just asking for trouble. At the very least, it's going to wear out a blade. I will take a look on the computer and I will put a price for a blade right down here and see what these blades cost. It says this will take up to a 15-inch blade. It currently has a 14-inch blade in it, so apparently you can put a little bit bigger blade in there. Does look like there's room. But frankly, I am super impressed. I always appreciate it when people send me things to try out because it's a lot of fun to try things you haven't tried before. But this is a spectacular tool. This is going to speed up production in the shop. It's going to allow me to get some things done a lot faster than I used to. Unfortunately, that means my big Marvel bandsaw may not be used as much as it was because this cuts so fast. I may be money ahead using this over the bandsaw quite often. Anyways, I will put all of the appropriate links down in the video description so you can track down Evolution Power Tools if you're interested in looking at more of their saws. Hopefully they'll have a dealer locator so you can find a dealer near you if you're looking to go look at one in person. This particular saw is the S380 CPS. They've got other saws. They've got lots of other tools on their website. And I will put the specs. I'll just go ahead and photograph this page and leave it on the screen for a little while towards the end of the video, right before I do the usual links to other videos that I think you might find interesting. Always worth staying till the end of the video to see what I recommend. Anyways, I hope you found the information helpful. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around and watch a few of the other videos. Remember, there's links at the end. Then I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one.